Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to part 2 of Snowman Put Together. A little review of our put together exercise, which there's a lot of repetitive steps, so I'm just doing it for the eyes and the hat. And we kind of turned these into embedded symbols. We made it a graphic symbol first and then converted it into a movie clip symbol that had the word moving in the name of the symbol, because that's the timeline where we did a tween. So on our scene 1 here, you can see we only have one frame. There's nothing moving. And if you go inside here, there's still nothing moving. These things are moving on their own. Their own timelines move. So they're independent kind of movie clips that work on their own, which makes this more of like a component system where all these little things can kind of do their own thing. Makes it easier to put together movies that way with separate objects instead of kind of doing everything at one time in one timeline. It's a little easier to manage, although if you're not used to it, it's a little confusing. So we're going to go back to our snowman timeline. And on this, according to our instructions, it says, there are different ways to do this. We're saying put an actions layer on the snowman timeline. Now, you could put it out on the main timeline for scene 1. You would just have to identify the symbols through the snowman. You'd have to have an extra instance name before it. It's like going into another folder. You have to have a folder name and then the other folder name. But we're not going to do that. We're going to follow the instructions that are on here, and we're just going to put it in the snowman timeline, add a layer at the top, and call it actions, and we'll run our actions that control, because that way it's talking to everything in this timeline, because everything's here. The eyes MC, the hat MC, they're all right here, so we could kind of talk to them directly. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into our actions palette, and we're going to first do our event listener, and I guess we'll do it for the hat first. We'll do hat MC, and hopefully we gave it our instance names dot, and we're going to do add event listener. And mouse event dot, and what we're going to do is we're going to click on it. So we'll look for click, the capital click, and then we're going to do the comma, and then we're going to put our function name, which would be, we'll call it hat move. There it is, hat move, and then I close this off, I put a semicolon. That's our listener. I didn't close it off right. I'll put my semicolon and I'll hit return, and I'll do the function, and the function is the hat move function, but you have to write the keyword function first. And make sure you don't have cap locks on, like I just hit by accident. So there's function, and it should turn that kind of reddish magenta color. And then I'll type hat move again, exactly the same way. And then in parentheses, we'll do E colon, and I'm going to do mouse event again. And you could come up here if you find mouse event. You could choose it from this list. And then I'm going to close it, and then we do the colon void. And then we do a opening bracket and hit our return, so we get a second bracket. So that once you get used to doing that, it won't be that hard. Just remember, these are colons. There's no semicolons until they go the items or the methods that are inside the curly brackets. We do have a semicolon here, but these are colons inside here. So what we're going to do, and this would be pretty easy, we're just going to do hat MC dot play, and that's all that's going to happen. We don't have, if we did a go to, we would have to put like go to frame 2 or something, but we're not. We're not gonna put anything in here. We're just gonna do a hat MC.play, and that's gonna be what happens when we click on the hat. And it should play the little timeline. It should, if it's in a stopped state, it will play it and then go to where the stop is at the end. And I feel so confident that this will work that I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it, and I'm gonna replace hat MC with eyes MC, because that's the other instance name we have. And I'll try to be consistent with all these names here. I'll call it eyes move. And if you had a really long file here, they have search and replace features in here that you wouldn't have to do this manually. You can say you could look for hat move and replace it, but I'm going to do it myself. And it says eyes MC, so make sure you do everything. And now what else? And make sure that the function name changes. So function name changes and all the instance name changes, and that should play both timelines when I click in them, of the house, or not of the house, of the hat and of the eyes. And I'm going to do one other thing here. I'm going to put 2 properties. I'm going to do hat MC dot, and I'm going to do button mode. And if I start to type a BU, it'll come up. And it's button mode equals true, and a semicolon, and I'll copy that and paste it, and I'll do the hat, I'll do the eyes one, just make sure. And then if you did all these, you want to be efficient as far as what you change. Less typing, the better. Less chances to make mistakes. So what that'll do is that will actually make it so that your link finger will show up when you hover over it. So I think everything looks okay here. You could always hit this thing to see for any syntax errors. Now that doesn't mean if you name something wrong, that'll come up when you actually play it. So let's see what happens here. I'm just going to double check. I have, that's called eyes moving MC, and this is called hat moving MC. Guess what? It's not going to work. And then I'll do command return, and it won't work because it's looking for hat MC and eyes MC. And what did I do wrong? I called it eyes moving MC and hat moving MC, and there's actually no reason to, because there's only one hat and there's one eyes. So I'm just gonna, it should just be hat MC. I think I did that wrong. That's okay. You will make similar errors, so make sure it's just eyes MC and hat MC. If I do command return, all that stuff should go away and it should work. I should click, there's my link finger, button mode. It's playing that little movie clip, and now when I click here, it plays that little movie clip. Okay, so couple things to take away from that is make sure that your instance names are, the shorter the better. They don't have to have moving in them if there's just a hat and eyes. There's not going to be any other ones. We called them different names in the library because we do have a hat and a hat that moves and an eyes and eyes that moves as symbols. But as far as what we're doing here, that's not necessary. So the shorter name, the better. Okay, and as far as our code that we're working on frame 1 of Snowman, we just have our listener, we have our function, and it's making itself play. So the listener's working for the hat, and then it's playing the hat. Okay, so I think we're good with everything here. I'm going to close it up, go back to scene 1, and just do a command return. Make sure everything works. And that's it.